Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 118.
I'm Cam, this is Julie. This week's Torah portion, we are looking at Genesis 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Too many.
And there's so much in there, it's just like, So, if you have enjoyed Doc Talk, feel free to look at our last year and the year prior to that. Yes. The numbers for last year were 70 A and B, and I believe it's 17 A and B.
Okay.
I like those sevens. All right, so let's just jump in and look at a few things that we haven't covered before in this week's portion.
Good luck, because you did a really good job last year.
And the year before, it covers a lot. But there are a few things that I thought we'd look at. The first one was, I noticed really starts in chapter 17, and we talked about this last week, how 17, we start to see how Abraham and Sarah are that one unit, right?
Yes.
And in that one unit, they both get the new name. They're both having the covenant. Now, this week we have where Abraham's being visited and Sarah is obviously involved in that visit. And then we have in chapter 21 where now the Lord is visiting Sarah. And, of course, Abraham is involved in that visit. Mm-hmm. So each of them get this personal invitation, this personal follow through for the covenant.
Right.
Yet they're still together as a whole. And I noticed in... I love it. In 18, this week, let's see, it's 18, 12, and 13. And it says, and Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have the pleasure, my master, being old too? And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, sure, shall I truly have a child since I am old? And I thought, there's that one. Sarah did this. Not out loud, in herself, but again, as Abraham and Sarah are one, Abraham is being asked to respond to her behavior.
Answer for her.
Yes, which we have with Adam and Eve. Remember, when Eve did her thing, it wasn't until Adam followed through that oneness, full accountability was there.
Right.
But then we do see in verse 15 that then Sarah, the Lord's like, no, you did laugh. I mean, he does then make a direct comment to her. Yeah. But she's in the tent, right? She's hiding.
Yes. Well, and I love that because it's like Yeshua. Mm-hmm. You know, he is, because he took on all of our sin, he's now responsible for our sin, but yet we are also held accountable
we still
for
have
our
to
sin.
Answer for that.
For ourselves, yes. Yeah. But he has to answer first, which he did on the cross.
Right.
Right. You know, and I also gathered from that, you know, even though you don't actually say something out loud, it's what's in your heart that counts.
It's as if we did say it.
What you're thinking, that really struck me this year, I think harder than ever. I don't know why, maybe because I have too many thoughts going through my head that shouldn't be there, but that goes back to take those thoughts captive immediately. And because when you mull over them, think about them, all of those things, we're accountable for that.
Right.
That's scary.
That's those darts. You know, the darts come. Just because you had a thought doesn't mean that you've sinned. It's what you do once you have the thought. Do you line it up with the Word of God, or do you, as you said, mull over it?
Right. And even though it's not a sin, it's still something we should, I would say, repent for. I kind of learned that from Amalek.
It's the potential. Because it's the potential.
Abimelech, yes, you know. It wasn't his fault that Sarah was married, but yet he still had to repent for it and be prayed for.
Yeah.
So that's a good lesson for us also, is that, you know, we may not think we should have to repent for something or that we should be sorry for something.
Yes.
But just repent.
Right.
So much easier. Life will be so much easier.
Yeah, that's true. Another comparison that I saw was we have in 18:19 where this is where the Lord is saying, should I tell him what's going to happen? Because he's our friend. Yeah. And the thing that's said about him is, it says, for I know him so that he commands his children. Remember, he only has one child right now.
Right.
But he has a whole bunch of people. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, and his household after him to guard the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and right rulings, so that Yahweh brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. So I thought, wow. Then we have later on in chapter 20, we have Abimelech.
Okay, yes.
And Abimelech, too, is seen as, you know, I mean, he's talking to the Lord and calling out to him. But what we see in 20 verse 7, it says, and now return this man's wife, for he is a prophet, and let him pray for you, and you live. But if you do not return to her, know that you shall certainly die, you and all that are yours. So this
Like the
shows,
opposites.
yes, it's not, no one's paused, or the Lord can't say, he's going to keep my word. He has to give a look, and if you don't.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to treat Abraham that way. He treats Abraham as if he is going to keep my word, and he does, but not with Abimelech. Yet here we have in 18, where right after this part, he's praying for Lot, and Lot's saved. And then right after that, with Abimelech, he's like, pray, let Abraham pray for you because it will happen. Because right back up here in 18, we see that it says that what the Lord speaks to him, he's going to do. But it also has this interesting flip is what Abraham speaks to the Lord in the Lord's plan, the Lord will do. Because they work together.
They work together as one.
Because if you think about it, the Midrash is that Sarah in chapter 16, one of her things being upset was that Abraham hadn't prayed for her to have children. That's the Midrash. I don't know if that's true. Just interesting. But regardless, what we do have is by 20, we have him praying for Abimelech, which in its way ends up praying for Sarah.
Yeah, because that was the curse that came on them with the closed wombs. Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of like, once you've done that for them, now I would love to do it for you.
Now I know why him and his entire house would die. Because if no one can have children, then it all dies right there.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's the same idea of like, hey, Adam, you're going to die in a day. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So he closed up all the wombs. That was the curse.
Yeah, so they were going to all drop dead.
Right. It was that now it will all die with you.
Right. All right, so in chapter 19, I saw a few things. One of them was, we realized from, again, Ezekiel 16, we find out that the real sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was nothing that we actually see here. It's the pride, it's the no hospitality, which I thought it's interesting because the number one thing, complete opposite of Abraham, but the number one thing we have is Lot counteracting everything that the Lord was going down from 18. He's going down to see if the cry was true.
Yeah.
He's counteracting everything.
Yeah. He's showing hospitality. Right. He's inviting them in. He's giving them a place to lodge. He's protecting them from the people of the city with whatever the
that spirit of
it
oppression.
Seemed to be just like a common thing.
Right.
It seemed to be that was what they were known for. Almost like, if you were a stranger and you stumbled onto Sodom and Gomorrah, just that's what you should expect.
Which those are the ones that did cry out. Your strangers, your orphans, your widows.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that the Lord listens
to protect them.
Right, and he did. And Lot was doing that. He was trying to protect them in the way that he could without dying.
It's funny because I saw the same thing this year. I was like, gosh, look at Lot. He's like, wait. As soon as he saw him, please turn aside to me. Let me feed you. Lodge with me. And they're like,
almost
no,
like
no.
hyper. Or not hyper, but over enthusiastic about, no, really come with me.
Yeah.
And he prepares the way, and he feeds them quickly. He does all the things that reflect what Abraham just did, showing he still, while assimilating into the city, he still kept those core beliefs and practices of Abraham.
Right.
It just wasn't enough because his children who married and left the home, obviously they didn't seem to hang on to those values.
You know what it made me think of? It made me see Abraham and Lot as Yeshua in two different scenarios. Yeshua with Israel and Yeshua with the church. Because I get the feeling that Lot is appeasing his wife by staying in the city. Because she's the one that turns back. She's the one that it's Midrash that she didn't want to give them salt.
Yeah.
At the meal when salt was such a covenantal
everlasting
thing, and that's why she turned into a pillar of salt, because that's the one thing she wanted to withhold from them.
Right.
But I just see the wife maybe being the one that's keeping Lot.
That's an interesting thought.
Could be. But it would fit the Yeshua having to be played on both roles.
Right.
You've got the Israel, the whole package with Sarah and Hagar. Right. You got both those under his wing. So you've got him in this aspect, and then you've got him that's hooked with the church because she's the concubine, so to speak.
Right.
He's still hooked with her, and he's still faithful.
Right.
But the wife is the one that's keeping him
being
in
dragged.
Can you imagine just Yeshua having to endure that. Why are you guys doing
Right.
this? This is
Come
all
on.
evil. Come out. Come out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that, with Lot and Abraham, with Lot and his wife,
Right.
one of the things I saw too, remember the angels have to grab them, literally take them out.
Yeah.
But remember, they take them out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, okay, now they have to do the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two thoughts on it. One was, the wife, I almost said Sarah, but it wasn't Sarah.
Yeah.
The wife who has no name. She
doesn't,
turns
does
around.
she?
No, she's not named. She turns around, right? Well, when she looks back, that's actually a Hebrew idiom for to hesitate, to delay, to dally, linger.
Yeah.
And I immediately went to the virgins,
Yeah.
the 5 virgins that weren't ready, because the only reason why I thought that, and the servants in Matthew 24, because they experienced the harshness of the time, that judgment.
Right.
Well, that's what she did. She experienced the judgment, but she was still taken out. But then she experienced the judgment, which made me think of those are the 5 virgins, and then the other 5 that flee, they get to go.
They get to go,
and
right.
you have Lot and his 2 daughters that go. But they're like, go to the mountains.
And
the mountains, that's like represents the temple. That's like the safety, that, strong
Actually, that's not
place.
true. They did go to the mountain, but they wanted to go to Zor first.
Right, but here's the deal. They got to Zor, then they got scared when everything. So they saw it. They saw the destruction from Zor.
Mm-hmm.
Zor means little, small. They saw it from a very small perspective.
Yeah.
Then they go to the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought we have Abraham on the other side watching it from the mountains
Yeah.
with a different perspective. He didn't think it was the end of the world.
Yeah.
He knew it was judgment.
Right.
So my thought
He was with his entire
had they
family
gone
and household.
out, had they gone up to the mountain and watched it from there, would their perspective and look of the future had looked differently? Yeah. Could you see the other side? What else would you see there? Because the Lord had a place for them to stand and watch his hand. And they chose to not stand there. They chose to pick their own place. So it just made me start thinking. Yeah.
So could this again be the Israel and church scenario, meaning, and when I say church, I'm not talking about any specific church. I'm talking about anyone who still fits in that category.
Right, those who still look very Egyptian, who are not willing to say yes to grafting into Israel.
Right, okay. Right. They're not willing to go under Sarah.
Right.
They're just, they want to mix.
Right.
It's the Laodicea church. The Laodicea, the last church we're going to see, the mixing of the world and stuff, which makes sense why the wife looked back, because that's where her treasure was.
Right.
Her treasure was in
the
Sodom.
city, yeah.
And
her kids
were there. Her spirit. So think about that as the church when you're winning souls, and then the Lord destroys Babylon. That's where you won all the souls, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that's where you're going to think your treasure is, right?
Yeah.
So my other thought was this could also be, again, representing that Israel and the church perspective when the final Gog and Magog happens. Can you imagine? So you've got those way up here who were well within his territory saying, no problem. And then those on the outskirts when it happens, what that would be like for them.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Cannot imagine. And again, it's obedience. Obedience would have put them in a whole different place. It would have never put them even there.
Right.
But even then, the second chance of being pulled out, it would have put them somewhere else. So it just shows, one, obedience is really going to dictate, not salvation, but obedience after salvation will dictate where we are in those
judgment times.
Right, and how we're affected.
Yeah.
This other thing I thought,
How we
what a
experience.
great testimony. Because of Abraham's prayers, they're protected.
Yeah.
So what's that say about us for family? Now think about it. Abraham, when he looked, he probably didn't go, oh yeah, I see Lot and his 2 daughters are saved.
Yeah.
He didn't know that, but he knew he did what he was supposed to. And the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. So in chapter 21, of course, we have where Sarah's being visited and she's going to conceive. And I really like how it says in the beginning of chapter 21:1, it says, and the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did for Sarah as he had spoken. So again, this is the Lord fulfilling what he told Sarah and Abraham, okay? And now that fulfillment's happened, then we go down, it's going to be a few years later, and now we've got the issue of the servant. Okay, we've got the issue of Hagar. And this is where Sarah's like, get him out of here. Her son's not inheriting. And I think we talked about this previously. The whole idea there was Sarah had every right to do with whatever she wanted with Hagar because that was her servant. It was never, it was called Abraham's wife so that they could have sexual intercourse. But it wasn't, remember, it was to provide a daughter or a son for Sarah, not for Hagar.
Right.
And of course, we know that all went awry. But what's interesting was here again, we see the two having to act as one. We have Sarah removing Hagar. But as we know from Exodus 21, that doesn't have anything to do with the son. Because when the slave or the maid leaves, she cannot take with her the children.
That's been born.
Right, that's been born in the house. They're not hers. But Abraham releases the child. He's the only one that's able to do that. He releases the child. So again, we see them both working together. The other wife and the heir are both removed. Because before that, we know that Abraham is clearly like, well, what about Ishmael? I mean, but here we have where the Lord is confirming in 16:10 what he had told Hagar before. He said, go back, right? I'm going to make a nation. He's going to be a great nation.
Yeah.
Yet here, Abraham is finding that out. And the Lord's like, oh yeah, I need to tell you too. Now, he told him in 17 that from you will come nations.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But now here's a son that's going to leave. So who knows what the thought process is? Is that not going to be a nation? Because now he's not under me. But whatever the thought process was, the Lord confirms, no, he will also be a nation. Okay. Right. I'm not removing that. He's going to get that benefit of being your child, and he's going to still become a great nation. Right. Yet we see where she's having to be reminded of that, and Hagar. If we look in 21:18, it says, arise, lift up the boy and hold him with your hands, for I make a great nation of him. And Elohim opened her eyes, and she saw the well of water, and she went and filled the skin of water and gave the boy drink. All right, so right there, he's confirming. Because I'm sure the thought was, well, now I'm out of the house. Now what's going to happen? Because she got the promise of being a nation when she was to return to Abraham.
Right.
Now she's left, and he's confirming, look, that was not a conditional covenant or promise. It was a guarantee. He's going to still. And then,
he does become a great nation.
Yes, he does. He has 12 sons. He has them first. I mean, he does become a great nation. And what we see, though, is suddenly her eyes are opened. Now, remember, the Lord, in the verse ahead of that, the Lord doesn't hear her cry, hears the boy's cry. Right. Because now she's been removed. She has no rights. But he does, as was an heir. He gets a double blessing, he gets the 12 kids, but he doesn't get land. One of the things I would say about that, her eyes are blinded. And I thought this was neat because suddenly we have two blinding events this week. We have all of the guys in Sodom and Gomorrah who are trying to get in, right? They're blinded. They can't see. They cannot find what? The door. The entry. The way into the Lord. They can't find it because they have their agenda. They have the delusion. Yeah, that's what I thought. So 2 Thessalonians 2 is all about how they'll just be given over to the delusion. Right. Then we have her where she is blinded to the water, right? Until what? He hears the son, gives the promise to her, just confirms the promise to her that was already given to her about him. And then what happens? Her eyes are open and she sees the water. Yeah. She sees water. So we've got the door, those in the darkness cannot see, and then we have the water. What was her job? What did it say? She gave the water to him. She gave living water to him. Yeah. Again, it wasn't that she drank of it. It's that the Lord provided for her to provide for the one who's going to become the nation here. So anyway, I just thought we have these blinding scenarios running through.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And the last thing that I saw that I thought I'd just throw out there, 22 is so jam-packed that it's just not even fair to say anything about it. But I'll say two things. Yes, go read it yourself again and again and again. But two things that I thought was interesting. Okay, three. I lied. One is in 22:1, it says that basically, so it says, and it came to be after these events that the Lord tried Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am, he me. He's like, here I am. Okay. That word try, this is the first time it's been used.
Okay.
And it means to test, to try, but it also means to prove.
To prove.
And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, because in 15, we have this covenant. Mm-hmm. Then in 17, we have this. And then in 18, he's saying, oh, I know that he's going to teach. Abraham's going to teach everyone in his household like he should. Now let's just try and prove. Not just try like test, but let's prove. Let's prove to the world. Let's prove to all generations to come. And let's prove to myself and himself. Mm-hmm. So we have the Lord proving to Abraham that he's going to act correctly, and he does. Mm-hmm. He does act correctly. And the next time we see this is as a nation in Exodus, we have in 15, 16, 17, we have these multiple where they're being tried with the bitter waters, and they're being tried with the waters, and they're being tried with the manna. All these places.
They're being tried as well.
Yes, yeah. And all these are going to provide. These are the things he's providing. Well, isn't that the whole topic of this?
Of 22.
Yes, he's providing the ram, the lamb, all these things. The other thing was when he says in verse 2, and he said, take your son now, your only son. So I learned this, I thought was so cool. And this is from Dr. Dye. And the comment is that when you see the only son, only begotten son, that is a royalty title. It's a title used to say, this is the one that's going to be king.
Oh.
Well, I thought, well, yeah, okay, so Messiah is born, and this is my only begotten son.
Right.
But that's actually a term that isn't just here, but you'll see throughout throughout the ancient times. That's how they, when you had all your children, you got your 42 kids running around, that's my only begotten son. He's not really your only birth son, but he's the only one that's going to bear that title.
Play that role.
The other thing is that the ram is caught in the thicket is also a symbol of the king. Okay, but here's what's cool. In Exodus, when they're doing the Passover, what's up in the sky?
The ram.
The ram.
Aries.
The king. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. That's the time that they're showing that, no, your king isn't, it's our king.
Right.
So to me, it
this is what we're doing to your king.
Right, we're killing your king because our king lives.
Right.
But I just thought even more it verifies the significance of why the ram in Exodus is what is up in the skies, and that's considered their highest king.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, there's so much more, as we say at the end of every week. I do really suggest that you learn 22, the Akedah, really understand it because there's so many reflections of Messiah in it.
Right.
And lifelong lessons. I mean, really just things that pertain to our lives today to see how he's still fulfilling this promise to not just Abraham, but to the world.
Right. And can I say one more thing? In 21, I learned this. This was really cool. So in 21:33, now this is after the whole thing with Abimelech and all of that, it says, and he planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba. And so the thought is, what the heck is a tamarisk tree?
Yeah, what is a tamarisk tree?
No one can figure it out. I mean, if you go look at, anyway, we're going to skip all of what it really is. It's an evergreen tree, but that's not really how the sages read that.
Okay.
They read it as in Hebrew, and if you look it up in Hebrew, it's Ishel.
Okay.
Okay? And they say it's an acronym. The Aleph, the Sheen, and the Lamed. Okay. And they say that the Aleph is Ohel, which means food. And the Sheen is Shtia, which is drink. And the Lamed is Lina, which is sleeping.
It's an inn.
So it's an inn.
He built an inn.
So
and I've heard that. Yes.
Right. But it's right there.
Yeah,
and that's where they get it from. See, I heard that too. But I never knew where they got it from.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
So that's where they get, if you've ever heard that he has an inn, that's where it comes from.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
I love it. Well, we will keep digging for next week. And we thank you very much for joining us. We hope you have a fantastic week. And we'll see you on the flip side, which is next week.
Yeah.